to everybody. You look. It's how you look. He was married, but you, darling, you look.
Brian Engling, the class speaker, will speak to us on the topic of growing up. When I was in the first grade, I knew only one thing. That was the life of a first grader. I had no concept of the word responsibility, no idea what real worries were. The only worry that I had was making sure that all my vowels were memorized in order. I loved being so young, always being so happy. They say that ignorance is bliss, and they're very right. When you're that young and you know so little, you can't help but be happy. Try to talk to a first grader sometime about the future. They'll be talking about going to school in the fall or getting a job that you like. And the first grader will be saying something about going to the zoo next week. Next week is as far into the future that someone that young can see, while we're forced to plan ahead over a year, sometimes more. Although there is little work to be done, a few things to worry about when you're that young, there are a few catches. You can't drive, you can't go to parties, and it's rare that you ever get a good date. But those aren't even the biggest drawbacks. The biggest drawback is that you don't even realize it. You realize how great it is to be 6 years old until about 11 or 12 years later. I didn't realize how great it was until about 2 weeks ago. That time I had about 30 things on my mind and teachers breathing down my neck for assignments. When I was 6 years old, I was in the one stage of my life when I could relax. The one time when I didn't have to worry about something. And I didn't realize that I was even at that stage until now. Sometimes I think I'd rather be 6 years old again, instead of having to go out into the real world and become an adult. Now is the time when I need to relax, and everyone is telling me that it's time to grow up. And not just my parents, but people my own age tell me that. My little sister tells me that every night before I go to bed. I say, "Good night, Allie. Grow up, Brian." Well, I don't know if I'm ready to grow up yet. Although sometimes I do think it would be great to be young again, very young. I must face reality. I'm not a first grader anymore. I'm older, and I have some responsibilities. More than a first grader, but I'll bet that I have a lot more fun than a first grader. How many times have you seen a first grader toilet papering the school cop's office at 2 in the morning? What I want is impossible to get. And up until now, it's been pretty hard for me to understand that. I want to have the freedom from responsibilities that a first grader has, but I want to be treated as an adult at the same time. But it just doesn't work that way. Fortunately, a while back, some people invented something that comes very close to what I want. They call it high school. You can have about as much fun as you want, but there are a few responsibilities to think about. When I found out that growing older and moving from grade school all the way to high school meant that you had to accept some responsibilities, I didn't think that it'd work out for me. I'd never had that much to worry about. But then I realized that sure, there are more responsibilities than a 6-year-old, but there are a lot fewer responsibilities than a 30-year-old. And I think that as a class, we've had more fun than most 30-year-olds. Have you ever seen a 30-year-old driving around with a van load of people waterbombing McDonald's parking lot? It looks to me that high school is a very happy medium between the carefree life of a first grader and the realistic life of a 30-year-old. There are, of course, pros and cons to each situation, but high school has always been a safe bet with me. Just the right mixture of freedom and responsibility. Somehow, when those people were thinking up the idea for high school, they found a way to mix the best of both worlds, but still managed to keep some semblance of order in the process. In high school, there are grades to worry about, but there aren't any mortgages. We don't have recess like grade school, but the girls get a lot better looking. And study hall is just like recess anyway. From the 6-year-old, high school took freedom, a carefree quality. And from the 30-year-old, high school took a little bit of reality. Together, they were mixed into this single building, and little than each of us here. The scary part is that until now, we've known nothing but high school. And all that is being let go right now. I think that tonight, when all is said and done, and our mixed world of that 6-year-old and the 30-year-old is taken away from us, and we're pushed out into that real world, a lot of us, including me, are going to feel pretty cold and empty. But think about it. We want it to be warm and secure forever. Thank you.